Alian Queuing thought he was a simple farmer, until he stretched the blade of the morning sun painted the wheat fields golden. As Marcus Chen walked through his crops, his boots made soft sounds on the dirt path between the rows. The wheat swayed gently. In the warm breeze, ready for harvest, Marcus smiled as he touched the grain heads. They were perfect. Another good year, he said to himself. Marcus had lived on New Harvest for 8 years now. The small farming colony sat on the edge of human space, far from the busy cities and trade routes. Most people here grew food or raised animals. Life was simple and peaceful. That was exactly what Marcus wanted. He was a tall man with dark hair and kind eyes. His hands were rough from years of farm work. His neighbors knew him as a quiet person who grew the best wheat in 3 sectors. Children often came to his farm to see the golden fields. Marcus always gave them sweet corn to take home. Marcus called a voice from the road. He turned to see Sarah Martinez walking toward him. She was his closest neighbor and good friend. Sarah was expecting her first baby, and her belly was round and large. Her husband Tom worked at the colony's power station. "Good morning, Sarah," Marcus said with a smile. "How are you feeling today?" "The baby is very active," Sarah laughed, putting her hand on her belly. "I think he wants to come out and see your wheat fields," Marcus chuckled. "Well, tell him to wait a few more weeks. The harvest festival is coming soon. He can see everything." Then Sarah's face grew serious. "Marcus, have you heard the news from the outer colonies?" "What news?" Marcus asked, though something cold touched his heart. "Ships have been seen near the border systems, strange ships that nobody recognizes. The colonial authorities sent out warnings yesterday." Marcus nodded slowly. "Probably just traders from the far systems. Nothing to worry about." But inside, old memories stirred. Ships that nobody recognized often meant trouble. Marcus had learned that lesson long ago. In another life that felt like a dream now. "I hope you're right," Sarah said. "Tom is worried. He says the power station received strange signals last week. Very strong signals from deep space." "Try not to worry," Marcus said gently. "This is a peaceful colony. We grow food and mind our own business. Nobody has any reason to bother us here." Sarah smiled, but Marcus could see the worry in her eyes. "You're probably right. I should get back home. Tom will want lunch soon." Marcus watched her walk away down the dusty road. Her words stayed in his mind as he continued checking his crops. Strange ships, strong signals. These things meant something was coming. He pushed the thoughts away and focused on his work. The wheat needed attention. Some areas needed more water. Others had small weeds that needed to be removed. This was his life now, growing things instead of other activities from his past. At noon, Marcus went to the colony's center for supplies. New Harvest had about 300 people living in small houses around a central square. There was a general store, a medical clinic, a school, and a communications center. Everyone knew everyone else. Double quotes. "Hello, Marcus," said Mrs. Pyre from behind the store counter. She was an elderly woman who had lived on New Harvest since the beginning. "How are the crops looking?" "Very good this year," Marcus replied, picking up seeds and tools. "The harvest should be excellent." "That's wonderful news. We'll need good food for the winter." Other farmers in the store were talking quietly among themselves. Marcus could hear words like strange signals and unknown ships. The worry was spreading through the colony like ripples in water. Old Jim Walker, who raised cattle on the north side of the colony, approached Marcus. "Hey there, Marcus. You ever serve in the military?" The question surprised Marcus. "Why do you ask?" "Well, you just seem like the type who might know about defense things. With all this talk about strange ships, some of us are wondering what we should do if trouble comes." Marcus chose his words carefully. "I think the best thing is to stay calm and not worry about things that might never happen." Jim nodded, but he didn't look satisfied with the answer. That evening, Marcus sat on his porch watching the sunset. His farmhouse was simple but comfortable. He had built it himself when he first came to New Harvest. The porch faced west, toward his wheat fields and the mountains beyond. In his pocket was a small communication device. It had been silent for years, but today it had made a soft beeping sound, just once. Marcus knew what that meant. Somewhere in the galaxy, old friends were sending warnings. Danger was coming. He looked at his hands in the fading light. They were farmers' hands now, dirty with soil and marked by honest work. But underneath the farm calluses were older marks, scars from a different kind of life, a life where his hands held different tools. Marcus shook his head and went inside. That life was over. He was a farmer now. He grew wheat and corn and helped his neighbors. He was not the person he used to be. But deep in his house, hidden under loose floorboards in the basement, was a locked metal case. Marcus had not opened it in 8 years. Sometimes, late at night, he could almost hear it calling to him. Tonight, the calling seemed louder. No, he said out loud to the empty house. That life is finished. He made a simple dinner and went to bed early. Outside, the night was quiet except for the sound of wind in the wheat. The stars looked peaceful and far away. But in the deepest part of space, something was moving toward new harvest. Something that would change everything for Marcus Chen in his quiet farming life. The ships were coming, and with them, a queen who thought she knew everything about humans. She was about to learn how wrong she could be. Marcus slept peacefully that last night of his simple life, dreaming of golden wheat and harvest festivals. He did not know that by tomorrow evening, everything would be different. The wheat still swayed in the night breeze, ready for harvest. But soon, there would be a different kind of harvesting on New Harvest Colony. And Marcus Chen, the quiet farmer, would have to remember who he really was. Marcus woke up to the sound of screaming. He jumped out of bed and ran to his window. The sky was filled with strange lights. Ships floated above the colony like dark clouds. They were unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The ships looked like they were made of black crystal and metal. They moved without sound through the air. More screams came from the colony's center. Marcus could see people running in the streets. Some were carrying bags and children. Others just ran with empty hands, looking for places to hide. Sarah, Marcus whispered, thinking of his pregnant neighbor. He quickly put on his clothes and boots. Then he ran outside toward the colony's center. The morning air felt cold against his face. Above him, the strange ships cast dark shadows on the ground. As Marcus reached the main square, he saw them. The aliens were tall and thin, like giant insects walking onto legs. They had 4 arms each and wore shiny armor. Their faces looked like a mix between a human and a bug. Large black eyes stared at everything around them. The aliens carried weapons that glowed with blue light. They pointed these weapons at the colonists and spoke in clicking sounds. Marcus could not understand their language, but their meaning was clear. They wanted the humans to gather in the center of the square. Marcus hid behind a building and watched. Old Jim Walker was on his knees with his hands behind his head. Mrs. Potter from the store was crying quietly. Many other neighbors stood in groups, looking scared and confused. Then Marcus saw Sarah. 2 aliens were dragging her toward a large ship that had landed in the square. She was calling for her husband Tom, but Marcus could not see him anywhere. Please. Sarah cried out in pain. The baby, please don't hurt my baby. The aliens did not seem to care. They continued pulling her toward their ship. Something hot and angry rose up in Marcus's chest. It was a feeling he had not experienced in 8 years. His hands began to shake, but not from fear, from something much more dangerous. One of the aliens noticed Marcus hiding behind the building. It pointed its glowing weapon at him and made clicking sounds. Marcus raised his hands and walked slowly into the square with the other colonists. The largest alien stepped forward. This one was different from the others. It wore a golden crown and had marks painted on its face. When it spoke, the other aliens listened carefully. Humans. The large alien said in broken human language, I am Queen Vexhara of the Zephyrian Empire. You are now our property. Some of you will work for us. Others will come with us to serve in other places. The queen's black eyes looked over the gathered humans like they were animals at a market. When her gaze fell on Marcus, she paused for only a second, then moved on. To her, he was just another farmer. You will give us food, metals, and workers, Queen Vexhara continued. If you fight, you will die. If you help us, some of you may live. An older man named David Chen stepped forward. He was brave, but not wise. This is our home, he said loudly. You have no right to take our people. Queen Vexhara looked at him with cold eyes. Then she raised one of her four hands. Blue energy shot from her fingers and hit David in the chest. He fell to the ground and did not move again. Several people screamed. Children began to cry. The message was clear. Do not fight back. Marcus watched his neighbor die and felt the old fire burning. Stronger in his chest, his hands stopped shaking. His breathing became slow and steady. The change was happening whether he wanted it or not. The aliens began separating people into groups. Young and strong humans went to one side. Older people and children went to another side. Sarah was put with the young group, even though she was pregnant. Please, Sarah called out, looking around desperately. Marcus, someone help me. Marcus started to step forward, but an alien warrior blocked his path. This warrior was bigger than the others and carried a larger weapon. It looked down at Marcus and made clicking laugh sounds. Stay back, dirt farmer, the warrior said in broken human language. You are too old and weak to be useful. The warrior pushed Marcus backward with one of its forearms. Marcus stumbled but did not fall. The alien laughed again and turned away. Thinking the human was harmless, that was its first mistake. As night fell, the aliens set up guards around their ships. Most of the colonists had been locked inside the community center. The chosen workers, including Sarah, were kept in a separate building under heavy guard. Marcus sat in his group with the other useless colonists. Everyone was quiet and scared. Some people whispered prayers, others just stared at the floor. But Marcus was not praying or staring. He was watching. He counted the guards. He studied their weapons and armor. He looked for weak points in their defenses. Old skills were coming back to him like water flowing downhill. We have to do something, whispered Mrs. Potter, sitting next to Marcus. They're going to take our young people away forever. What can we do? Asked another colonist. They have weapons we've never seen before. They're stronger and faster than us. Marcus said nothing, but his mind was working in his thoughts. He could see his old teacher's face. Master Chen had trained him in the ways of combat many years ago. A true warrior, Master Chen used to say, does not fight because he is strong. He fights because others need him to be strong. The words echoed in Marcus's memory as he watched the alien guards walk their patrol routes. They were confident and relaxed. They did not expect any trouble from simple farmers. That was their second mistake. When the guards changed shifts at midnight, Marcus quietly slipped away from the group. None of the other colonists saw him go. He moved like a shadow through the dark streets, avoiding the alien patrols. His farmhouse looked empty and peaceful in the moonlight. But Marcus was not looking for peace anymore. He went straight to his basement and found the loose floorboards. The metal case was exactly where he had left it 8 years ago. It was heavy in his hands and covered with dust. For a long moment, Marcus just held it, remembering the promise he had made to himself when he buried it. Never again. He had whispered back then, I will never be that person again. But Sarah's frightened face appeared in his mind, David's lifeless body, the tears of children who did not understand why monsters had come to their peaceful home. Marcus opened the case. Inside, wrapped in dark cloth, was Whisperwind. The blade was as beautiful as he remembered. The metal seemed to glow with its own light. The handle fit perfectly in his hand, like it had been made just for him, and it had been. Marcus lifted the sword and felt 8 years of farming fade away. His muscles remembered how to hold a weapon. His eyes remembered how to see a battlefield. His heart remembered why he had once been the greatest warrior in human space. The aliens thought they were dealing with simple farmers. Tomorrow, they would learn the truth about Marcus Chen, and Queen Vexhara would discover that some humans were much more dangerous than they appeared. Marcus stood in his wheat field as the sun rose. Whisperwind hung at his side, the blade catching the morning light. He had practiced the old forms all night in his barn. His body remembered every movement, every stance, every strike. The wheat around him swayed in the breeze, golden and peaceful. But Marcus was no longer the peaceful farmer who had planted it. He was something else now, something the aliens were not expecting. 3 Zephyrian scouts came walking through the field toward his house. They carried their glowing weapons and looked bored. To them, this was just another day of controlling weak humans. "You there, old farmer," called the first scout in broken human words. "Come with us. Queen wants more workers." Marcus did not move. He stood quietly among his wheat, one hand resting on Whisperwind's handle. "Did you hear me, human?" the scout said, raising its weapon. "Move now, or we will make you move." Marcus looked up at the 3 aliens. They were tall and strong, with 4 arms each in armor that gleamed in the sunlight. Their black eyes showed no kindness or mercy. "This is my field," Marcus said quietly. "You are not welcome here." The scouts laughed, making clicking sounds with their mandibles. The first, one step closer, pointing its weapon directly at Marcus's chest. "Stupid farmer," it hissed. "You will learn to obey." Blue energy shot from the weapon toward Marcus. But Marcus was no longer where the energy beam passed. He had moved faster than the alien I could follow. Whisperwind sang through the air like a silver bird. The first scout looked down in surprise. Its weapon fell to the ground into pieces. Then the alien fell too. Its life ended before it could understand what had happened. The other 2 scouts stared in shock. Humans were not supposed to move like that. Humans were supposed to be slow and weak. "Impossible," whispered the second. Scout. Marcus spun toward it, his blade dancing in complex patterns. The alien tried to raise its weapon, but Whisperwind was already there. The scout's armor, made to stop energy beams and metal bullets, could not stop the ancient blade. The third scout turned to run, but Marcus was faster. Whisperwind found its mark with the precision of years of training. 3 aliens lay still. Among the golden wheat dot above the field, flying patrol ships had seen everything. Their cameras sent images back to Queen Vexhara's flagship. The Queen stared at the screens with growing interest. "Replay that sequence," she commanded her officers. The footage showed the human farmer moving like liquid lightning. His blade work was unlike anything in the Zephyrian combat databases. It was not the clumsy fighting of untrained soldiers. This was art. This was mastery. "Interesting." Queen Vexhara clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Very interesting indeed." Back in the wheat field, Marcus cleaned Whisperwind's blade on the grass. His movements were calm and practiced. He felt no joy in the killing, but he felt no regret either. These aliens had threatened his neighbors. They had taken Sarah. They had made their choice. Now he would make his. Marcus walked toward the colony's center, passing through his irrigation channels and past his grain storage buildings. He had built this farm with his own hands. Every field, every fence, every building was placed exactly where he wanted it. That would be important soon. More Zephyrian warriors were waiting for him at the edge of town. 12 of them this time, ranged in a battle formation. They had learned that this human was dangerous, but they had not learned how dangerous. Marcus studied them as he approached. They carried heavier weapons now and wore thicker armor. Their formation was good for fighting other Zephyrians. Against a human who had studied 17 different alien combat styles, it had weaknesses. "Surrender now, human," called their leader. "Our queen wishes to speak with you before you die." "Then let her come," Marcus replied, drawing Whisperwind. The blade hummed softly in the morning air. The warriors attacked all at once, hoping to overwhelm him with numbers. Blue energy beams filled the air where Marcus had been standing, but he was already moving, using the irrigation ditch as cover. The first warrior to reach the ditch found Marcus waiting below. Whisperwind struck upward, finding the gap between armor plates. The alien fell backward into its companions. Marcus rolled out of the ditch and came up running. He moved between the grain silos, using them as shields against the energy weapons. The aliens tried to follow, but Marcus knew every inch of this ground dot from behind the first silo. He struck from beside the second. He appeared like a ghost. The warriors were skilled, But they were fighting on Marcus's chosen battlefield now, one by one. They fell. Queen Vexhara watched from her flagship as her elite warriors died. This human was not just skilled, he was intelligent. He had turned his entire farm into a weapon against her forces. Enough, she said, standing from her command throne. I will handle this myself. The queen's personal transport descended from the flagship like a falling star. It landed in Marcus's wheat field, crushing the golden grain beneath its weight. Queen Vexhara emerged, followed by her royal guard. She was magnificent and terrible, taller than her warriors, with golden armor that seemed to burn in the sunlight. Her forearms each carried a different weapon: energy blade, plasma rifle, quantum whip, and neural disruptor. Her black eyes fixed on Marcus with deadly focus. I am Queen Vexhara, she announced, her voice carrying across the field. I have conquered 17 star systems. I have defeated the greatest warriors of a dozen species, and now I will add your strength to my collection. Marcus walked toward her through his ruined wheat. Whisperwind was steady in his hand. He showed no fear, no doubt, no hesitation. This is my home. He said simply, you will leave now, or you will not leave at all. The queen's mandibles clicked with what might have been laughter. Bold words for a simple farmer. Let us see if your skill matches your courage. She attacked without warning, all four arms moving at once. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled the air. Her quantum whip cracked like thunder. Her neural disruptor sent waves of pain toward Marcus's mind. But Marcus was ready. He had fought beings like this before. In the old days when he served the Empire, he knew their strengths and their weaknesses. The battle that followed shook the ground and lit up the sky. Two masters of combat, each at the peak of their abilities, testing each other with everything they had. The colonists, watching from their prison in the community center, could hardly believe what they were seeing. Their quiet neighbor, the gentle man who grew wheat and gave corn to children, was fighting an alien queen as an equal. No, he was fighting her as a superior. Queen Vexhara felt something she had not experienced in years of conquest. Her attacks were being turned aside. Her perfect techniques were being countered. This human was not just surviving her assault, he was learning from it. And slowly, inevitably, he was winning. For the first time since becoming queen, Vexhara felt the cold touch of uncertainty. Who was this farmer? What was he hiding beneath his simple exterior? The battle continued, wheat falling like golden snow round the two fighters. But Marcus could see the truth in the queen's eyes now. She was beginning to understand that she had made a terrible mistake. Marcus Chen was not just a farmer who could fight. He was a fighter who had chosen to farm. And there was a very big difference between those two things. The battle between Marcus and Queen Vexhara raged across the wheat field. Every clash of their weapons sent shockwaves through the air. The queen's forearms moved like lightning, but Marcus's single blade met every attack. As they fought, memories flooded through Marcus's mind. He remembered the day he first held Whisperwind 20 years ago. He had been young then, full of fire and dreams of glory. You have a gift, his teacher Master Chen had told him. But gifts can become curses if not used wisely. Marcus had not understood those words back then. He was too eager to prove himself, too hungry for victory. When the border wars began, he volunteered immediately. The border wars were humanity's darkest time. Alien forces called the Void Princes had attacked human colonies at the edge of space. They were creatures of pure energy and hatred, destroying everything they touched. Marcus had fought them on 100 different worlds. With each battle, he grew stronger and more skilled, but he also grew colder. The young man who loved poetry and flowers slowly disappeared, replaced by a perfect weapon. Queen Vexhara as energy blade crashed against Whisperwind, bringing Marcus back to the present. She was breathing hard now, her golden armor cracked in several places. Her black eyes showed confusion and growing fear. Impossible. She hissed between attacks. No human can fight like this. What are you? Marcus did not answer. He spun away from her quantum whip and struck at her side. The queen barely managed to block with her plasma rifle. The weapon shattered under Whisperwind's edge. "I have studied your species," the queen continued, pressing her attack with renewed fury. "Humans are weak. Humans are slow. Humans die easily. You studied the wrong humans." Marcus replied, his blade finding gaps in her defense. More memories came as they fought. Marcus remembered the final battle of the Border Wars. He had tracked the Void Prince leader to a dead planet at the galaxy's edge. The creature was ancient and powerful, made of pure destructive energy. The battle had lasted 3 days. When it ended, Marcus stood alone among the ashes of his enemy. The Void Prince threat was finished. Humanity was safe, but the victory felt empty. Marcus looked at his hands and saw only instruments of death. He looked in the mirror and saw a stranger wearing his face. The wars had made him into something that scared even himself. The Emperor had called him a hero. They offered him anything he wanted: money, power, titles, planets of his own. Marcus asked for only one thing: to be forgotten, to disappear and find peace somewhere far away. "Peace," the Emperor had said, confused. "You are the greatest warrior humanity has ever produced. Why would you want peace?" "Because," Marcus had answered, "I have forgotten how to be human." Queen Vexhara activated her neural disruptor, sending waves of mental pain toward Marcus. But his mind was protected by years of meditation and inner peace. The attack barely touched him. She stumbled backward, all forearms shaking. "What manner of creature are you?" "You're mine. It is like steel and water at the same time." Marcus advanced steadily, Whisperwind glowing in the morning sun. "I am what you made me become. A farmer who remembered how to fight." The Queen's royal guard tried to help their leader, but Marcus was ready for them. He moved between them like a dancer, Whisperwind singing its deadly song. These warriors were skilled, but they had never faced anyone like Marcus Chen. One by one, they fell around their queen. Vexhara stood alone now, her weapons broken or lost. Her beautiful armor was torn and damaged. For the first time in her long reign, she faced defeat. But Marcus did not strike the final blow. Instead, he stepped back and lowered his sword. "Yield," he said quietly. "Take your ships and leave this place. Never return." The queen stared at him in amazement. You would spare me after I took your people? After I threatened your home?" "I would spare you because that is who I choose to be," Marcus replied. "I have killed enough for one lifetime. I do not need to kill you too." Through the broken wheat, Sarah appeared. She had escaped during the battle and now stood watching with wonder. Behind her came other colonists: Mrs. Potter, old Jim Walker, Tom Martinez, and dozens more. They saw their quiet neighbor standing over the defeated alien queen. They saw the legendary blade in his hand and the bodies of enemy warriors around him. But most importantly, they saw his choice to show mercy. "Marcus," Sarah called softly. "Who are you really?" Marcus looked at her, then at his other neighbors. These were the people he had chosen to protect. These were the people who had shown him what it meant to be human again. "I am your neighbor," he said simply. "I grow wheat and help with the harvest festival. That is all I need to be." Queen Vexhara struggled to her feet. Her proud bearing was broken, but her eyes showed a new kind of understanding. "You were a warrior before you became a farmer." "Yes," Marcus admitted, "but I chose to become a farmer. That is what makes the difference." The queen looked around at the colonists gathering in the field. She saw no weapons in their hands, only curiosity and concern. Even after she had threatened them, they showed no hatred. "Your species is strange," she said slowly. "You have the power to destroy, but you choose to create. You have the strength to take revenge, but you choose to forgive. That is what makes you as human," Marcus replied. Above them, the Zephyrian ships waited for orders. Their queen was defeated, but she still lived. The battle was over, but what would happen next? Queen Vexhara activated her communication device. "All ships, prepare for departure." She commanded. "Your Majesty," came a confused voice from the flagship. "What about the conquest? What about the human slaves?" The queen looked at Marcus, who had turned away to check on Sarah's condition. The pregnant woman was safe. protected by her neighbors who had risked their lives to help her escape. There will be no conquest here, Vexhara said quietly. These humans have something we do not understand, something we cannot take by force. She paused, watching Marcus help an elderly colonist who had been injured during the escape. Wisdom, she whispered to herself. The Queen's ships began to rise into the sky, leaving New Harvest Colony in peace. But Vexhara did not board her flagship. Instead, she remained standing in the wheat field, watching the humans care for each other. Marcus noticed she had not left. The offer still stands, he said. You can go in peace. I know, the Queen replied, but I think I would like to understand what I saw here today. She looked down at her hands that had only known how to take and destroy. Perhaps you could teach me how to grow something instead of ending it. Marcus smiled for the first time since the battle began. I think that can be arranged. The sun climbed higher in the sky, warming the damaged wheat field. There was much work to be done. Crops to replant, buildings to repair, trust to rebuild. But for the first time in years, Queen Vexhara felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. 3 months later, the wheat fields of New Harvest Colony swayed green and healthy in the morning breeze. The damaged crops had been replanted, and new growth covered the scars left by the battle. Marcus walked through the rows, checking the young plants. His hands were dirty with soil again, the calluses of farming replacing the grip marks from Whisperwind's handle. The legendary blade rested once more in its hidden case beneath his house. Marcus called a familiar voice. He turned to see Sarah. Martinez walking toward him, carrying a small bundle in her arms. Her baby had been born healthy and strong 2 weeks after the alien attack. She had named him David, after the brave man who had died defending the colony. Good morning, Sarah. Marcus smiled. How's little David today? Growing like your wheat? Sarah laughed. He never seems to sleep. Tom says he's going to be a farmer like his neighbor Marcus. Marcus touched the baby's tiny hand. David gripped his finger with surprising strength. He can be whatever he chooses to be, Marcus said softly. That is the most important thing. Behind Sarah came another figure. Queen Vexhara walked carefully through the wheat, her forearms holding a basket of vegetables. She had traded her golden armor for simple farming clothes. Her movements were still graceful, but gentler now. The tomatoes are growing well, she reported to Marcus, though I think I may have given them too much water yesterday. Marcus examined the vegetables in her basket. They were good quality, grown with care and attention. They look perfect to me. You're learning quickly. The Queen's mandibles moved, and what Marcus had learned was her version of a smile. It is harder than conquering planets, but more satisfying. After the battle, Queen Vexhara had sent her fleet away. She told them she was staying to study human farming techniques. Her officers did not understand, but they obeyed. The Zephyrian Empire was vast. One queen could be spared for research. But Vexhara knew the real reason she had stayed. She wanted to understand the strange feeling she had discovered when Marcus spared her life. The feeling humans called hope. I have been thinking, the Queen said as they walked toward the colony's center. My people have conquered many worlds, but we have never created anything beautiful. We take what others have made. Creation takes time, Marcus replied. Destruction is quick, but building something worthwhile requires patience. They reached the main square, where other colonists were busy with the morning market. Mrs. Potter waved from her store. Old Jim Walker tipped his hat. Children ran between the stalls, laughing and playing. The colonists had been afraid of Queen Vexhara at first. How could they trust someone who had threatened their families? But as weeks passed, they saw her genuine efforts to learn and change. She helped repair damaged buildings. She shared knowledge of alien technology that made their lives easier. Most importantly, she protected them when other alien raiders tried to attack the colony. Vexhara called little Emma Potter, Mrs. Potter's granddaughter. The 6-year-old girl ran up to the former queen without fear. Look what I drew. The queen knelt down to examine the child's artwork. It showed stick figures working in a field, humans, and a tall figure with 4 arms all planting seeds together. It is very beautiful, Vexhara said gently. May I keep it? Emma nodded eagerly and ran back to her grandmother. The queen carefully folded the drawing and put it in her farming clothes. Marcus noticed she kept all the gifts the children gave her. "You have changed much in these months," Marcus observed. "Yes," the queen agreed. "I am beginning to understand what I was missing before. Purpose beyond conquest, joy beyond victory, peace beyond war." They walked to Marcus's farm, where other colonists were helping with the harvest preparations. The annual festival was only a week away. This year, it would be bigger than ever before. Word had spread to other colonies about new harvest and its unusual alien resident. Visitors were coming from across the sector to see the place where war had turned to peace. Tom Martinez was fixing a harvesting machine with help from some Zephyrian technology the Queen had provided. The device could now process grain 3 times faster than before. "How's it working, Tom?" Marcus asked. "Like a dream," Tom replied, wiping grease from his hands. "Vexhara's improvements are amazing. We'll be able to harvest twice as much grain this year." The Queen looked pleased at the praise. She had spent weeks studying human farming equipment, finding ways to make it more efficient without changing its basic purpose. "I still do not understand why humans grow more food than they need," she admitted to Marcus. "Zephyrians only take what serves them directly. We grow extra because we might need to share." Marcus explained. "Bad weather, crop disease, emergency situations. Someone always needs help. Growing extra means we can be generous when the time comes." Generosity, the Queen repeated the word slowly. Another human concept we never developed. As the sun reached its highest point, Marcus and Vexhara sat on his porch to rest. The view stretched across golden wheat fields toward the mountains. It was peaceful and beautiful, everything Marcus had hoped for when he first came to New Harvest. "Do you ever miss it?" the Queen asked quietly. "The excitement of battle? The glory of victory?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "Sometimes I remember the feeling of being the best at something dangerous. But then I look at what I have built here, and I know I made the right choice." He gestured toward the colony, where people were working together, laughing together, living together in harmony. "This is worth more than any victory I ever won." The Queen nodded slowly. "I am beginning to understand. Destruction is impressive, but creation is miraculous." A small communication device on Marcus's belt made a soft beeping sound. He looked at it with surprise. It had been silent for months. "What is it?" Vexhara asked. Marcus read the message and smiled. "News from the capital. The Emperor wants to give me another medal for defending New Harvest Colony. Will you accept it?" "No," Marcus said, turning off the device. "I am not a hero. I am just a farmer who protected his neighbors." The Queen studied his face. "You truly believe that, don't you?" "Yes, because it is true." That evening, the colonists gathered for dinner in the community center. It had become a tradition since the Queen's arrival, sharing meals and stories together. Tonight, Mrs. Potter had made her famous apple pie. Tom played his guitar while the children sang along. Queen Vexhara sat with baby David on one of her forearms, gently rocking him to sleep. The sight of a former alien conqueror caring for a human infant would have seemed impossible just months ago. Now it felt natural. "Marcus," she said quietly as the music played around them, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "Before I came to this world, I had never seen a sunset without thinking about the next battle to fight. I had never tasted food without analyzing its strategic value. I had never touched another being without calculating how to defeat them." She looked down at the sleeping baby in her arms. "Now I see sunsets as beautiful. I taste food as nourishment and pleasure. I touch others to give comfort and receive it." Marcus smiled. "That is what it means to be alive instead of just existing." The Queen was quiet for a long moment. "I think I am beginning to understand what you meant about choosing who to be. I was a conqueror because that was all I knew. But now I choose to be a gardener." The music continued around them as the night grew dark outside. Through the windows, they could see the wheat fields swaying in the moonlight, ready for harvest. Tomorrow would bring more work, more learning, more growing. There would be challenges and difficulties, as there always were. But there would also the friendship, hope, and the quiet satisfaction that comes from building something good. Marcus looked around the room at his neighbors, human and alien alike, and felt deeply content. This was what he had been searching for when he left his old life behind. This was what victory really looked like, not the defeat of enemies, but the creation of friends. Not the taking of worlds, but the growing of gardens. Not the harvest of war, but the harvest of peace. Outside, the wheat whispered secrets to the wind, speaking of seeds planted in hope and tended with love. And in that ancient conversation between earth and sky, the future took root and began to grow.